file is there. YouTube failed. Well, it automatically uploads to YouTube, but it failed, so I was worried about that. Thing is, with this app, it seems Liara, that's what I named my phone, Liara, after a fictional character, alien girl. Liara will go ahead and decide if the video is good enough to keep. And like, the phone will delete it if it thinks it's low quality.
Well, anything that deals with technology can and will fail with me. Oh, that rhymes. It's real.
See, that's another thing I think is attributed to that impulse, that excessive electrical activity.
Yeah. It's really irritating. I fry my phones all the time. Yeah, I did a few segments about spirits, and I completely cooked my phone.
Yeah. I've gone through 4 phones now since we started this that they just, I never actually had my own smartphone before then. I never used the internet. It was 2 years ago I just got on the internet. I got a smartphone, I got on the internet, and since then I've gone through 4 phones that just, I think maybe it's because I kind of move faster than I'm supposed to, and I use various apps at a time, so I kind of blow out the phone. But at the same time, that's not normal. It should manage. Well, if it can, if the phone can operate something, there's no reason why that should break it, right?
Well, it's just the energy. I went through 4 webcams, and I could broadcast because I used to be pretty big on Facebook under the alias Akasha's Abundance, and I was broadcasting from my home, and there was massive spiritual energy in there on a regular basis. And if you didn't catch me while I was broadcasting, if you went to play me back, there was noises like jackhammer noises and complete static. I can only be captured from smartphones. I like to joke and say that's because smartphones are an Aquarian age invention, and I'm the high Aquarian, so they work for me. But that's why I don't bother with webcams. I have a 1080p one, and pretty much if the phone can't capture me, then I'm just out of luck. I try all electronics, but they come back eventually if I really want them to.
Mine don't. Mine are dead. I made the original Liara. This is Liara Mark III now, and I had a government phone that I used as well. That made the 4th one, but I didn't give that one a name. It wasn't worthy of it. It was a piece of crap. But I still use it. But that one, the government phone functions, but it malfunctions. It'll start dialing numbers on its own. It'll start opening things on its own. But the other 3 just flat out, they stopped working. They froze up, and when I tried to restart them, they just stick on the start screen and they won't start up anymore. But I can hear messages coming through still, so they're still activating. They're just stuck on that screen. People tell me that that's a technical problem they said that if the phone's trying to download something like an update, and you turn it off while it's trying to download, it will do that. But then the 3rd time it happened, I actually shut off the Wi-Fi, so it wasn't downloading anything, and then it still did it. So, but that's an instance of the smartphones, and like I said, I was overworking them, so that could be the case. But there are other things, other electronics will just fuck up around me. The TV will get staticky and shit, especially if I'm pressing that impulse. Like I said, you can learn to push it, and it gives you a boost, an abundance of energy, and you can actually maneuver faster, you can think faster. I think that a lot of the ideas of supercharging and the Dragon Ball Super Saiyan shit, stuff like that, I think that's all based somehow in this Kundalini and what the elder traditions knew of it.
Yeah, it's a known fact that the Kundalini is pretty much never going above the 2nd chakra in most Americans. Different types of music will respond to different chakras. I listen to rap music by choice. It's my favorite genre. It corresponds to this chakra, and I'm not entirely clear on whether or not it keeps the Kundalini higher, but I know that country and rock is 1st chakra, and pop is second chakra. And most people in America, they are overweight and under-exercised. They have large amounts of anxiety, and that's all first and second chakra problems.
Yeah.
So
that's the ground. Something that I didn't mention, the reason why I'm fixated on this theory about the Kundalini is because we do have a greater theory. The imperative is a certain team, the team of representatives we're building, that there are what we call catalyst events in society that are pretty much the chakras of the human psyche, and the different communities that build around these events, the pseudo events in time space. You say like, what I like to think of as being like an artifact or a remnant of the first cause, like the actual overall identity that we're all a part of has a chakra system, and that communities build around them, and that's how you identify them. So we're collecting representatives from every various communities to kind of just, for all intents and purposes, try and balance it all out, because the theory is that this overall Kundalini of humanity is awakening, and that, of course, if it's not balanced out properly and the chakras aren't opened up, it's going to damage everything. Like, for me, I was in and out of the hospital, major surgeries and shit for 10 years because of this, because I didn't know what it was and I didn't know how to manage it. It took me 12 years now to get it all together and figure out how to properly maintain it without hurting myself. But I had, every one of my chakras hit one after another. An organ would fail, or something would go wrong that I needed like major surgery for. And I finally made it to here, which the last one would be the top, the crown, that hasn't been hit yet. But at the same time, I do have this noise that I hear coming off of everything, like a static. I hear layers of pattern noise, like patterns over patterns over patterns that are coming from somewhere. And then I hear noise that comes off of electrical equipment. I even hear noise that comes off of people and animals. So I'm wondering if that might not be a part of that one. And then also I did get my fucking head beat in the other night by 3 bigger black guys who beat the shit out of me. So I'm wondering if synchronicity didn't kick in there, because I actually did get a kind of boost out of that. Like, I'm thinking clearer, faster after being hospitalized for head wounds.
probably the dopamine, norepinephrine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just recently started, if I am speaking to somebody, even through video or in real life, if they have psychic ability, even if it's latent, I'm getting like a high frequency noise that it's almost like an excruciating amount of pain. But I've been dealing with that lately. That started maybe not even a month ago.
That speaks to another issue that we have a theory about a resonance effect that occurs, because I've had 3 students in a row, people that I've been training, that Kundalini spontaneously awoke in them just from being around me and syncing up with me. So I'm thinking that that's going to start happening all over the place. As more and more people get that active, it's going to resonate with other people and just activate it spontaneously. So that would be another aspect of the preparation we seek to be doing, that the imperative is hoping to do, to get people prepared for that sort of thing and educated, because nobody knows about this. The medical community is when I did my training as an STNA with the Red Cross, for my presentation, for the graduation presentation or the final test presentation, I did a map of the chakras, and I showed them how the Kundalini operates and what it does, and they were mesmerized. Like, not a single one of them had even heard of it before, not even my fucking trainer. So it's like, and that's an important aspect of health. That's, that's going to be primary to maintaining your health. And everybody knows this outside of America, maybe not Europe, but, at least the Eastern cultures know about this, and it's a primary practice in their medical training. But for us, it's just hidden.
Well, our doctors used to know about it. America itself isn't really that old. It's only existed during the Piscean Age. But in, like, the old world, people like me were the actual doctors. It was well-known information that through chakra meditation, you could heal your whole entire body, and what didn't work through chakra meditation could be taken care of with herbs, oils, crystals, physical manipulation. However, when you're speaking about medical doctors, you have to understand what the term means. They are only schooled in medications. A medical doctor is specifically trained for what medication they can, put into you to control your symptoms. And the old adage is true that a cured patient is a lost patient. So
yeah,
I've never put my faith in the medical field, really.
I've only had them to save my ass when I'm in deep shit, when I need surgery or whatnot. And then, of course, I have a therapist, psychotherapist that I talk to, but for the most part, my actual psychotherapist retired, and he left me with this trainee, this new girl, who pretty much now I'm kind of teaching her how to do her job. So that's fun, but I'm on certain medications for certain reasons. But so I trust that. But basically, when I met the dude, I told him what medications I needed and why. So pretty much, it wasn't even really. Yeah, I don't trust the medical community either. So tell me, I have an idea. I was thinking about. I was sorry to have cut off your story. But
I didn't think I was telling one, was I?
I believe you were, but
was I? I don't know.
The poltergeist. What do you think that is?
Well, I know what it is. It's pretty much, there are living gods. I believe I'm the only one who knows how to identify a living god. I do so by looking at their natal birth chart, their palms, and reading their energy. When these beings die, they do become poltergeist. A poltergeist is not a human spirit that has died. There is always a living God there that has died, and sometimes they band with other deceased souls. And the mark of a poltergeist is a combination. Both things have to be present. You will have things that move. Now, I'm not talking about doors opening on their own or anything like that. I'm talking about if you were to look at like a blanket on a bed, you would see it kind of churning and bubbling. Or I dealt with one at my home as a teenager. We had about 20 coffee cups that were under the cupboard on hooks, and they just all were swinging back and forth and like chiming, and stuff will just shatter. That's a poltergeist energy, non-human energy, and when stuff moves.
Remember we were talking about practicing with telekinesis or psychokinesis, and how you said that you had influenced light bulbs, and I in fact have actually popped one at one point. Obviously it's not something that I can prove I did, but I was sitting there practicing moving a card around with my mind, and this light bulb popped, so I'm going to go ahead and presume that's what caused it. So, my theory has always been, up until I met, there's another director of one of the other groups we work with, a young lady, Candace, who she said that she deals with spirits and such, and then I had an occurrence shortly after speaking with her. We actually had strange occurrences on the phone, and I made a video about this, so I'm not going to get into it here, but after we had the occurrences on the phone, I had several experiences that I consider to be spirits, which I had not had before. And before that, my theory was always that it was going to be stray energy that you're putting forth, or that people are putting forth in the environment, or it's going to be memory that's recorded, memory data that's recorded in the environment. And that's, pretty much how I explain the happenings of hauntings. I never thought that there was actually, it didn't make any sense to me that there would be people like hanging around after death, haunting places. But apparently that sort of thing happens to some extent, at least some places, some people, I guess. But the living God thing, I'm not really sure I understand what you mean by that. Where would they have come from?
Well, they are born, of course. I mean, your soul is continuous. You go through many lives. There's at least 13 cycles to life because there are 13 zodiac signs. I don't want to get into it too much because I will be publishing a book on that. But
awesome. We'll promote it.
When we die, I'm 5 chapters in, and I'm just, I've recently understood where our energy comes from that controls and energizes our chakras. So as soon as I get that chapter done, I might go ahead and publish it. I have kind of rules to follow on publishing it. It's really kind of in me to be all-inclusive and to cover a wide variety of mystical stuff, but it's against the rules for me to put it all in one location because I know I myself had to search through a variety of beliefs and mountains of books to put all the answers together. But when you die, you don't pass on unless everyone that you truly loved is ready as well. And if you raise up to God, who's on the 33rd ethereal layer, you will see little orbs of light that come into him, and no one ever reincarnates alone. And what happens when we have souls trapped here, it's when someone, say a husband and wife are together, and the husband actually loves his first wife, who is already deceased. Well, when he dies, he's probably going to join her soul, and they're going to reincarnate together. And then when his second wife dies, she will kind of be looking for him or whoever to, reincarnate with. It's souls that didn't have love reciprocated, that they get stuck here and they produce hauntings. I did live in a very, very haunted house. My ex and my son live there currently. At this home, there were just 3 entities, but I believe the daughter has died now, and because I can feel her, I can feel her there. And there's also a ghost dog. If you look in the backyard, there's a vortex of energy, and everyone can see it. Well, when I was there my second year, I think we started doing landscaping, and right under that vortex of energy, there's like a cement slab. There used to be a very nice shed there, and the son, this is a one-family home before us. They built it in 1955. The son, and it's a very religious home. The son, who actually turned into a minister, used to, walk through the neighborhood with his wagon full of Bibles, and he would recruit kids to come there to the shed to listen to his sermons. I thought that is why the vortex of energy was there, but when we started doing landscaping, we uncovered a 2x2 cement slab that the family put their footprints into.
Wow.
In magic, that is a control mechanism. You can control someone's whole being based on a footprint that they might leave. And I always had the understanding that is why those spirits are all tied to that house. Yes, it was their original family home, but all the spirits are in that house, and they come and go. When I go over there, I will be in there maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and everyone in the home is telling me that they're seeing stuff, and things do move. And I had some beautiful experiences in that home. Some of them were very scary as well. After I left, my ex was dragged out of bed and pulled almost all the way underneath his bed, and the bed levitates. He had his bedroom, after I left, gridded with mirrors. And this is also a thing in magic. If you want to harness massive amounts of energy, you can grid the room with mirrors, which is pretty much anytime you have mirrors facing each other, between those, things will come in, and they're usually powerful things. He was doing a lot of debaucherous things, and it brought very bad energy to the home because all the spirits who reside in that home were very good, very holy people. So, also, well, let's see, then there's the love from the living. If anyone alive truly loves a deceased soul, that soul will not reincarnate. They are held here because there's nothing stronger than the strength of the life force that loves. So that's how you get hauntings.
I actually, just to add before you go forward, I actually have the parallel mirror set up here. You can't see it because the camera's not high enough, but that's something I've been aware of for a long while. I always figured it was common sense, really, you know?
I've never known another person who knew that. I only know that from dabbling in the magical arts, which I try not to do. I don't really do it too much anymore because I can just do everything with my mind. But I've gotten to the point where I look upon poltergeist experiences with a lot of anticipation and eagerness. So I went ahead and I did it here, and I posted on Facebook about it. I have these moonlights, they're called, that I practice controlling with my mind, but a lot of times they will come on their own, you know, when my energy is heightened. Well, I got up in the middle of the night the other night, and they were right next to the mirrors, and they were on, so I don't know how I felt about that. I mean, it was a little scary, but the last project I dealt with is what?
This happened, you were working on a certain project, I read, right? For somebody else, you were doing some kind of drawings or something?
Drawings?
You said portrait. I figured it was a drawing. I don't know, you said you were working on a project for somebody else that involved artwork.
No, I'm having artwork done for me because I'm looking to publish a couple children's books, and I'm also going to completely reformat the tarot deck.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. My ex-wife and I wanted to do that, but we never completed it. And the girl I just talked about, Candace, she's making her own deck too. I think that because you know traditionally you want to have a deck gifted to you. But, you know, I think making your own one would be even more powerful, right?
Well, I won't give away what's wrong with tarot because I'm going to handle this and I don't want the information to be snagged up before I can do it.
Yep.
But it is essentially wholly flawed, and I've studied regular tarot and I've studied Thoth, and I do Thoth. I don't mess with the regular tarot because it's actually kind of incorrect. But Thoth is a little incorrect too, and I do have a crazy list of goals to complete in my life. I would like to gain access to the Great Pyramid, to do something like Aleister Crowley did. I do not need intoxicants of any kind to put myself into the spiritual haze that it is needed. I'm probably talented enough to just communicate with Thoth right here from my desk, but I'd like to go into the pyramids and actually receive the information on my own, because he's the only one that has done that. If you read anything about Thoth, you will never see anything other than interpretations of Aleister Crowley's interpretation. So I want to actually go and do it on my own. Crowley was one of my only mentors. He did lead me down the spiritual path, but not quite to enlightenment because he essentially was a little wrong. But I have been focusing my mind on that. And one of the very first things that clued me into Thoth being wrong was the fact that the cruelty card is Mars and Gemini. It's like, why? There's really nothing cruel about Gemini. If you were going to put the cruelty card on anything, it would probably be Mars and Capricorn or something like that. So
Capricorn. Also, I should like to note for the audience, she is the only person out of thousands and thousands I've ever met that knows how to properly pronounce Thoth.
Yeah, Yeah. it is tough. I'm really, really into mystical stuff, and Hermeticism was my first claimed religion. So I don't know where I have a lovely pendant I just found from my old residence that's the Osiris cross, and it has the raw wings going across the thing, and then there's like a little toast at the bottom of it.
You want to check for it real quick? I'm going to run and check the phone, see how much time we have left.
Okay.
Facebook a lot. I like that. You post a lot of stuff. It's interesting. That's awesome.
Where'd my link go?
The symbol that we're intending to use for the Outcast Revolution is supposed to be because I had dreams when I was younger where I met a partner figure that was like the perfect woman for me, and she was this really hard-ass, badass chick. And I always thought that was like a representation of the goddess to me. And so, you know, my ultimate partner and this supreme female character, so that registered as the god figure to me, and her name was Ray. And so I started calling her Ray, and then later I found out about the elder traditions had the god Ray that eventually became Ra in the masculine form. And Mandy claims to have like a contact with, as I have to say claims with you guys and everything. I have to keep my perspective entirely hypothetical, so I'm investigating, you know. So I can't say that something is or isn't from my end. But she claimed to have a connection to Isis, and that's one of the other three. So our symbol that we're going to make is going to be the combination of the Eye of Ra and the Isis knot. I have one that I worked on here. That's, you know, kind of what it's supposed to look like, but I want to do it better. It doesn't look good enough to me. But, yeah. Maybe you can open it.
I only have a connection to the big god. I mean, I guess I could probably communicate with all the other ones. For a long time, I didn't even believe people who said they had spirit guides, because I've gone to professional clairvoyants and they do this big charade of, oh, let me contact my spirit guides. And I got on Facebook and I actually said, oh, I call bullshit on spirit guides. They don't exist, because if anybody was going to have them, it would have to be me. And like 5 of my friends said, no, Norie, I have spirit guides. And I was able to do my thing with my mind, and I could actually describe all of their spirit guides. So my astrology does say that I'm a direct link with God, the same way a priest would be. I don't know why the Catholic Church doesn't actually look into natal birth charts, because it will say if you are a direct link with God. Anyone with Uranus in Scorpio has that ability. If you look that up, it's about a 7-year stint. I don't know, I'm born in 1981, so I don't try to memorize anything that's in print somewhere, but Uranus in Scorpio does make you a direct link with God. Mine is in the 11th house, which is the house of Uranus, and so it's like hypercharged. But I, as a rule, I don't associate with any other gods other than Ganesh, because my spirit totem is an elephant, and, you know, I'm very poetic and literary and wholly good. He also came once in, like, the cloud form, but as far as, you know, I used to be pretty Luciferian and things like that, and I've pretty much come to the conclusion that Jesus and Lucifer are the same exact entity as night and day, and I would just rather not tie myself to any gods except, you know, the creator God.
See, here's my beat, or my beat on that is I have an open communication with the world, and where you speak to, like I have the world communicating with me directly, and I consider that to be the God, and then that's all I think of is that I think there's a presence behind everything. We're all a part of it, and I just happen to call it Ray because of those dreams, if I call it by name, but I mean it just is God. So I don't associate with any particular gods. I study them. I'm a theology fanatic, but honestly, I don't believe that, I don't think that the Catholic or the Christian faiths actually really believe in God. I think that they worship, in their own scriptures, it says, thou shalt not worship false idols or graven images, yet they worship the image of Jesus dead, like I think that they're just, honestly, and this is my personal opinion, so hopefully nobody takes offense to it, but I've stated this thousands of times before, so I think that biblical scripture related oriented religions, though the Bible has a lot of value in it, it's compendium of stories that come from other cultures and such, but I think that Christianity in its essence and the offshoots of it, Catholicism and whatnot, are anti-theistic, because I mean they promote the concept that you're separate from God. They promote the concept that you're to be judged by God, whereas Jesus taught them that you are one with God. So that's my beat. I don't want to be a dick about it here, so I won't get into it. But I think that they're anti-theistic faiths.
Well, I'll explain it to you. It's all about the progression of the ages. The Piscean age, the fish. Everyone knows Pisces is the fish. That's why the fish is a symbol for Christianity. When a new religion comes along, they've been in the interest of damning the old one. If you look at the list of demons, you will learn that those are just former gods in earlier religions.
Right.
Yeah, so it's mind control. That's why, and it's mind control for the purpose of, keeping the poor from killing the rich, or the hungry from killing the full. However, it's, I don't believe the Bible one bit. Now, I've never read it, but I've tried, and I can't comprehend nonsense. I have this filter that doesn't let me waste my time with that.
Very poorly written. It doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. But the stories that are in it, they're collected from other cultures that had these stories before. And if you go and check out the other cultures' original versions, they do make sense, and they tell specific stories.
Like the Sumerian, the first civilization, it's the same exact stories. They just reformatted it with different things to meet their own personal agendas of the religion. But for the most part, there's three energies. There's the masculine, which is projective. There's the feminine, which is receptive. And then there's life. You, me, pets, animals, that's the third energy. And, you're not judged by God, you're judged by the Akashic records. The Akashic records hold all the sins of your soul. And there are such things as sins. It's nothing that they teach you. It's actually pretty much anything that degrades evolution, like molestation or abuse of a child, or, it's very bad to kill innocents, because children and animals are a source of unconditional love, and unconditional love is God. So, Christianity, and I don't want to say Christianity, because that's like Catholicism. Catholicism is the original church of Jesus Christ, and then people who had problems with their doctrine branched off, and that's why you have, over 50 different branches of Christianity, but it's all based in Catholicism.
Yeah.
And
the Roman Catholic Church would technically have been the origin point.
They are in the business of maintaining wealth. That's why all the 7 sins are natural human emotions, so they can make every man a sinner, so you can give 10% of your pay to the church, so you can walk in there and be absolved of your sins. But it's all just the Piscean age, and this is the Aquarian age, and that's why there's these heightened levels of consciousness that are coming about, and the honest truth is all of it's been here before. Every great point in human civilization has been during a great Aquarian age. We are in a great Aquarian age right now, and for those of you who don't know, the precession of the ages is timed by the rotation pattern of the sun. We're taught in school that the sun doesn't move. The sun actually does move. It's on a spiral axis, and it's roughly 26,000 years from the top to the bottom, and it's really big at one end, and it comes down, and when it reaches the end, it just goes back up, and it's timed by the zodiac.
Right, and we are taught that the sun doesn't move, but again, that's another common sense issue. Like, why would the sun not be moving? It's a galaxy. Like, why would
it's all part of mind control. They have to line up the educational system with the religious doctrine. Otherwise, people will kill each other and not pay the church.
I can understand the fear that they have of that. It comes back to cognitive dissonance, wherein your beliefs don't line up with your experience, or variations of that, essentially, where you have two conflicting thoughts, and it's going to be reinforced by people misidentifying their beliefs as their self, because the brain is going to make that association between identity and what you believe. And in my theory, psychologically speaking, is because the brain knows that you are a part of the creator, that you are the God in play, that you're the designing force. So when you form belief structures around the idea of God, your brain's registering that as what you believe about yourself. And the biblical scriptures have us believing that this God figure is a fucking tyrant, is like this terribly manipulative dictator that hates people. It's like a hateful thing, and that pisses me off. I'm sorry, I don't want to go down that route, but that's just my beat. Is I'm really pissed off that they're giving God a bad name, basically.
Well, it's previous, civilizations and cultures. God is actually not a conscious being. He doesn't have thought. It's the universe, the feminine, who does all the thinking and all the rule-making. God just rebirths energy, and he doesn't have a choice in who he heals. When you go up to the 33rd layer, your head just kind of drops down. And it's like that show, Teletubbies. His light is magnetically attracted to your crown chakra, and it goes through your body. Black magicians, a lot of people don't know the point of magic was always pretty much to find God. You can command any ethereal being to take you up. Only ethereal beings who are living gods can go up on their own, because everything that the church practices has an actual basis in truth, like heaven and hell. Hell is the lower 5 layers, and then 7, we're on 6. 7 starts the heavens, and that's why it's associated with death and God, and only the pure can be in the company of God. The church shows that, or teaches that, and that's the purpose of purgatory, to cleanse your soul. Well, if you're an ethereal being with living God energy, you can raise in the layers, and with God's healing, in a sense, you can be somewhat immortal.
So do you think that, and again, I have to say think, you say and you have an objective, absolute outlook, but I can't have that. I have to be hypothetical about everything. But you think that we're in a sixth layer, and that obviously you said that this cycle has happened before. Again, that's another premise that we have, that all of this has happened before, all of this will happen again. But this time we intend to make it. And so you're thinking that, are we moving into that 7th layer? Are we going to get there?
We aren't going anywhere. No. Reality is on the 6th layer. When you die, you can, go throughout the ethereal layers, and it is very real. I discovered the ethereal layers when I was 9 years old, when I started astral projection. you can move throughout the ethereal layers when you astral project.
Right. We can. I guess I suppose maybe I'm meaning to say that we can build a connection that we can, everybody can become aware and I don't want to say enlightened because that doesn't mean the same thing, but open up a connection to these higher levels, consciously in society as a whole.
Did you see that thing the camera just did? I don't know. My whole being just kind of flashed. It freaked me out. It caused a seizure.
When I'm making videos, when I'm amped up, like if I drink a few Red Bulls and I get like super juiced up when I make a video, the screen will flash. It's weird.
Yeah, it did that when I put my little cross there. It got like really bright and then it went away.
Yeah, that happens. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe we should cut this and continue. Like, do you intend to come back again for us?
I will. I was thinking that I do need to get back to work because I do work all the time. So yeah, I will come back.
Okay, well, Mandy wants to meet with you via Messenger or what have you and just talk to you and ask you some questions about your abilities and such. And then hoping that we can carry on next Sunday, which if you do that, we already have your introduction, so we don't need to cover that and we can get right into the good shit.
Okay.
Awesome.
Make sure when she sends me a message, make sure she says something in the first 15 characters because I ignore Messenger. I have to. So.
I get you. But I'm a special case, I suppose.
Alright, well, yeah, I can talk to you more next week.
Also, the festival thing, if you want to do that, like do a report from the festival, for the audience, I'm trying to convince Holley to be our correspondent. Give us feedback on her instances and experiences, and she's going to do going to a festival. I guess it's a hippie fest, musical festival.
Yeah, I've been trying to get to Nelson Ledges Quarry Park for over a year. They've known of me for about 3 years, and they've been waiting on me to show up. However, I had a pregnancy last year and whatnot, and I was pretty far along during the summer months. I just couldn't make it there. So I'm going there to do work. I'm not going there to engage in the activities. I'm just going there to read palms and do charts and probably do healings and to sell various crystals and crystal jewelry, for the premise of healing.
That's cool.
And I do several things,
I'm not gonna bullshit. I'd go there and I'd get slammed on something cool.
Yeah, it is an haven for illicit activities.
Yeah. I like, because we have the Remnants of Tomorrow program is dedicated to psychedelics exploration and investigation in general. We do investigation of all of life's mysteries, especially metaphysically related or metaphysically oriented mysteries. But it was based initially in the psychedelic exploration, so that's something that I'm into, and not going to suggest that you do anything of that sort, but if you do, give us a report on it.
It would not be in my best interest because, when I'm looking at a poem, I don't really want to see like tie-dye and whatnot.
Be able to read it because.
Well, actually, I will give you a slight little rundown. I don't want to talk too much about my personal experiences, but last time I was there, I did, I don't want to say experiment with hallucinogens, because I've done plenty of them. However, I broke the rules I was taught. When you do a high-powered hallucinogen like LSD, you want to control your environment. And if not, you will have a bad trip, I promise you. I had my first bad trip because I was around a bunch of people all on different drugs. And if you are on LSD and you have people jumping around because they're on methamphetamine, and it creates a very bad vibe. The music was not enjoyable for me. It did send me into the first and only bad trip, which was pretty much a whole bunch of fear. And to control it, I just remembered the lessons the person who taught me about that and that was control it by the music. I went back to the campsite and I put on my own music because it was a cover band for Sublime called Bad Fish, and it was just it was horrifying to me, the live music, and I was able to bring myself back to some kind of normalcy, but I was incredibly irritable the whole entire time. So I'm not looking to ever party in that type of atmosphere again. However, I will go and work and remain sober.
That's another aspect I'd like to speak to for the audience who are learning about spotters, or what we call spotters. That's another aspect of it, is when people are engaging in psychedelic, using psychedelic substances and such. You want to have somebody that's sober, that can see what's happening, and that can help control the environment around you. And that would be another aspect of what a spotter is, not specifically in the psychedelic arena, but in the case that, from our perspective, most people are hallucinating a lot of the time. Like, people are living in a dream world. They think things are happening that aren't. They don't really understand. There's so much going on that people don't see. And so the spotter is essentially the person that's seeing the reality while other people are hallucinating. And I mean, this is going to be delusions. I'm not talking about, it is visual hallucinations. If you go back into the other traditions, and especially like the Buddhist or Hindu traditions, wherein they're going to state, and of course science is caught up with quantum mechanics, coming to the conclusion that reality is in fact akin to a dream, that, the reality we experience is illusory to some extent. So, I guess a spotter is speaking to somebody who's trained to see the reality, to spot values in play, and understand what things actually mean.
I'm usually that role along with, I'm like the designated driver who also drinks the most or something. I'm always that source who sees everything for exactly what it is, and it doesn't really matter, what I've taken. And no one knew that I was really having a bad experience. I just had a level of anxiety from the moment it kicked in. And I also want to study this. I was taking antipsychotics at the time, and I'm not exactly sure whether that played into it or if it was just atmosphere.
I have a big problem with those, the antipsychotics, the SSRIs, shit like that. I mean, sure, it can be used appropriately in certain cases. It can be helpful, but I really think that that's like a big experiment, because, they don't really know what these drugs are going to do to people. They put them...
Yeah, they're pretty harmful. I almost died when I took Halidol once, so...
Yeah, that's a bad one, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we can continue this next week.
Next Sunday. Or, we'll see. I'll find out in advance so that we don't, spring it on you, but it could be Saturday or Sunday, depending on Mandy's schedule.
Okay, I was planning on going there this coming weekend, so next weekend, but my plans have kind of been reformatted to put it off 1 week just for my personal things that are going on. So I don't see myself going there next weekend. I still have some issues that I need to clear up before I head out there, because there are no showers, there is no running water. The quarry is very freezing right now.
Yeah.
So I would like to, line up some friends I have out there, and I also have been investigating cell phone service. I've only found one carrier, and it's AT&T, and they're the most expensive. So I have to get myself in order a little bit before I go out there. But I don't see a problem in doing anything while I'm there. I was gonna work from out there anyway.
Right. And you could give us, if you're able to, you can give us a rundown of how that goes. I would suggest if you're selling crystals and such and healing implements, pick out somebody as like a tester and give a review of what you sell them if they're able to. That would be a good idea. And then we can promote your business.
Okay. Well, usually people need a while with a crystal.
Right.
I mean, the only thing that I have witnessed that's an immediate effect is when I give people crystals for anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh, and allergies. Allergies. A little girl came to me once at a festival, and she was so sick, she, could barely breathe, and her voice was all scratchy, and she was very miserable. And I hooked her up with a crystal, and I think it wasn't even 15 minutes later, my cousin was with me, and he pointed her out, and she was just running and playing, and, her allergies were completely cleared up.
I love that. Yeah,
so those are immediate things, but
see, for me, I can if somebody has crystals and such, like I'll walk in, magic shops in the area for the most part, like Wiccan or witchcraft shop, and I can feel, energies coming off of these things, and obviously I can hear things coming off of them. So it's like, for me, I'll always have an immediate effect with things, but that's the same for me with everything. Like if I take a drug, it'll kick in immediately because of like a psychosomatic response effect. So, because I'm practiced in that. That's something I've actually trained my body to do. So, but
I have several psychosomatic conditions, like the vasovagal response, and the seizures that I suffer are psychosomatic. So, very strong minds. Anyone who has an incredibly strong, gifted mind will tragically suffer psychosomatic conditions.
Yeah.
See, which I think tragic because I would be a doctor if I didn't pass out when I see blood. Yeah. And I know that's psychosomatic. They say it's a nerve response. The vagus nerve, the vasovagal response is when you do stuff like that. But I was shaving one day when I was a teenager, and I had very long hair. And when I dragged the razor up my leg, there was a piece of hair on it, and my hair was dark at the time, and it looked like I had split my leg open. And just by looking at that, I did actually faint, and that's how I know that it is a psychosomatic condition.
Yeah.
So.
See, I would be a nurse if I could handle. It's going to be needles and veins, particularly. The idea of something sticking into your vein, that. Like I would be a nurse if it weren't for needles in the mix.
I also feel people's pain. I'm hardened enough. If a child scrapes their knee, I can kind of doctor them up. I don't want to look at it too much, but I can doctor them up. But if it's on a soft area, like this part of the arm or the palm, then I typically feel the pain, or I just have this overwhelming dizziness and nausea that comes over me, where it doesn't matter how great I am with the healing arts or physiological responses to any substances. I could just never be a doctor. I always felt like a horrible mother, because if my children were hurt playing in the yard, the neighbors would actually have to come and deal with them, because if I pass out, I used to pass out and go into convulsions, but now I'm down for like 48 hours after I faint.
Damn. Look at it this way, the children, will have a better immune system insofar as concerns damages. They have a better sense of taking care of themselves, I suppose you could say. That's one way to look at it.
Yeah, it's always been a big thing. The last time I fainted like that, I bit the back of my cheek, because I was really going to town on some fries, and I felt it, and I could taste blood, and my daughter is like, oh, Mom, let me check, and she took a picture, because it was a pretty nasty bite that I gave myself, and she showed me the picture, and I just, I fainted, and yeah, it took me full 48 hours before I could even speak again. My children had to carry me to my bed, and I wasn't able to work or anything. So I try to guard myself from seeing anything of that sort.
people. She will be our very first actual, hosted interview. Technically, she's not on Outcast Revolution yet, but on Soul Mechanics and promoting Outcast Revolution, everybody fucking pop in and check it out. It's going to be awesome. We'll talk to her again next week. Thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Namaste.